Pass, what episode are we on? 27? 27, episode 27 of Apronware Podcast with your boys, Pass, Peach, and Walt. We were excited to get back to normal last week, where we got all together, and discuss the topic. We're back to even more normalcy this week, because I am severely hungover for this episode. So, the tide keeps rolling. Pass, how you feeling today, bud?
I am fantastic.
I'm glad one of us is. Okay, that's about it there. Peach, how you feeling today, bud?
I'm here.
I think from what you told us beforehand, that's really going to stand out in this episode.
Why?
What'd you say? Oh, you
Why?
opening candy to eat during the episode?
No, I'm eating Oreos.
Oh, what kind? What kind are those?
Can we turn this into an ASMR?
I mean, what kind of Oreos are those? Are those the vanilla ones?
Apple pie.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, this isn't a food critique podcast. This is a wrestling podcast. So let's get back to normal. So for this week's episode, kind of an interesting topic I threw out there to where Pass really bought into it. I think he's a fan of it.
I'm all in, you could say.
Oh no, we're not all in. We didn't get to go. But if anybody wants to send us tickets, still, please, you can just you can send them to the PO box.
We are still accepting tickets to All In.
Yes, we are. So the topic I threw out there to the guys was, if you had to show someone just getting into wrestling, or like someone new to wrestling, or someone getting back into it after not watching it for years and years and years, what matches would you show them? So the exam and what the kind of rules around this I put this was, you can only show them kind of the pre-video package that airs usually like right before the match to highlight the feud building up to it, and whatever shenanigans happen after the match. The example I threw out, this isn't on any of our list, was Daniel Bryan versus John Cena. I think it was SummerSlam 2014. I should probably look that up just to.
You knew you were going to use this as your example, and you still
Yeah, I
don't know.
didn't. Yeah, I didn't look it up. No, might have been maybe 2015 then, because that was Cena. No, that was Taker. Was it 16? Man.
Did this happen?
Yeah,
Did this match ever
Did
occur?
this match actually? It was SummerSlam 2013. Okay, we're learning it. But the video package building up to it really showed like the evolution of the Yes Movement. It showed John Cena choosing Daniel Bryan as his opponent for SummerSlam, which was what the fans wanted. You really didn't have a heel in this match. It could have been John Cena. I even believe in the video package you had the one call out to where Daniel Bryan says John Cena is a mockery of wrestling. So a lot of good build up for that match. The match itself, which was a really good match, you have Daniel Bryan winning, and then after the match you have the post-match shenanigans where Randy Orton cashes in his Money in the Bank contract. What are you laughing at, Pass?
That post-match shenanigans.
What? It's shenanigans. I mean, so that was kind of the idea of what you would show the person. So I asked all three of us to kind of come up with 5 matches each, so that when this episode we're going to discuss kind of 3 of them. Just so that we don't have any overlap or anything like that. Pete, you want to go first?
No.
As you would expect. Actually, you know, Peach, I did use you a lot while I was like thinking about these as a good gauge point to see if it was something that I think you would entertain, like enjoy. Like, oh god, yep, it's a really hangover. it's a very hungover podcast. It was something that you would get, you would enjoy, things like that. I'll start it off first since I kind of came up with the concept. What are you shaking your head for, Pass?
If you steal this match, I quit. I already told you.
I think this is the match I think you would expect me to have on here.
Yes, and that was the match I wanted to do first.
John Cena's CM Punk Money in the Bank?
God.
Was it?
Yeah.
Come on, you had to know I was going to pick this match.
Go ahead, Walt. Go ahead.
No, you can listen. We can discuss it too. Was this on your list, Pass?
Yes, it was on my list. I had 8 because I expected at least 4 of these for you to have. So
well,
I
come
had
on.
8 on my list.
CM Punk is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. This storyline was brilliant. The video package build up to it, like that was the only thing that kind of sucked about kind of the rules I put in place on this, because you couldn't show the person the full pipe bomb. It would just be the clips during that. I really like this the intro package because it was basically like a not a public service. It's like a public service advisory, like the way it came in with the fist in yellow. The one weird thing, which is kind of confusing, is that Punk's still like the leader of the Nexus during this angle, and they just kind of cut it off completely. You have the match itself, which is completely quality. I will say this, RestPass. My choice for this match specifically, I was choosing. The reason why I chose this match is because of the crowd. The Chicago crowd was, I think it's a very good match to show how the energy of an arena can take that match to the next level.
Right.
The other match I always compare side by side with this one is another Cena match, Cena versus Rob Van Dam at One Night Stand. At the EC. Oh man, did I get another match of yours?
No, keep going.
That's not the match I'm picking, but that's one I always compare these two together, just because I think the crowd is what takes this match to the next level. Yeah. And then you have the post-match shenanigans. Can we just title this, name this episode?
We can title this post-match shenanigans, because that's what you just said.
Whatever. Again, this is a wrestling podcast, not an English podcast, so we all know I butchered the English language. But then after the match, you had CM Punk obviously winning, Vince McMahon coming down to try to do whatever he can to hold on to the belt. The announcers saying, his contract's done at midnight, and he just runs out of the arena. You have an attempted cash-in by Alberto Del Rio, who just won the Money in the Bank briefcase earlier in the night. So a lot going on here. I think it's a great match to say, to show someone that you're trying to get into wrestling. Hey, for me personally, this is one of my favorite matches. Has one of my favorite wrestlers. Has a wrestler that they possibly know in John Cena. Just because if you're showing them now, he's been in was it Cockblockers or just Blockers was the movie name?
Blockers, yeah.
And he's done a bunch of others. He's been in, was he in Ted? Or Ted 2 or... He's in a bunch of movies that, normal people might have seen him in. So that would be my kind of first match that I put out there for it. RestPass, do you have any comments on that match, considering I'm assuming it was on your list?
Unfortunately, that was also my number one for just about everything you said. Like you said, as disappointing as the pipe bomb not being in full, you got the general idea by the pre-match thing, because obviously all three of us kind of took this topic a different way. I already know that. I probably did way too much research. Pique did the most, though. Yeah.
You also did
my thought was
to the T.
You're going into it completely blank. You don't have any idea of what's going on. I'm not explaining it to you when you're first coming into it. So you're basically seeing from the point that pre-package starts to the end, and that's it. And the whole feud, everything going on was explained perfectly in that pre-match package. It was perfect. Like you said, the only thing they could have done was show the whole pipe bomb first.
Even though the whole pipe bomb, that would have been hard for even a new wrestling fan to really understand.
Yeah, and they got the bits and pieces that fit to that match.
Yes.
In the pre-show thing. So between all of that and that's a lot of stuff I did was actually watch the pre-show packages and the end of the matches. Just to get the idea of is this going to confuse somebody coming in fresh where they might not have a general understanding. You don't know who Del Rio is, but you get the idea that Vince McMahon, who I'm assuming that if you watch wrestling at some point in your life, you know who Vince McMahon is. Vince McMahon does not want him to leave with the title, and he's calling somebody out to do it. Even if you don't know what the Money in the Bank contract is, you have an idea that Vince McMahon's calling somebody down to stop him.
And And I think the announcers, I think, do a great job. I think the announcers were Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, and Booker T. They do a great job of setting the atmosphere. So there's one line that always sticks out in my head. Like the crowd, again, the crowd is what takes it over for me. You have that one banner in the crowd that's like, if Cena wins, we riot. Very ECWS banner. During the match, when Punk's coming out, I think they make a joke or something like a partisan home crowd or something like that. And I think Jerry Lawler says it's like if the Chicago Bears were playing in the Super Bowl and it was in Chicago. And I think that can paint a very good picture to understand what it is like for Punk coming out as the hometown guy, because most people aren't going to understand that football reference.
Right.
So, Peach, do you have any comment? Have you actually seen this match?
I don't know. Cena versus Punk.
Money in the Bank. What was it? 2011.
It was when Punk wins the title and says he's going to leave with it.
Yeah.
But it was after the pipe bomb, so he wasn't there much longer.
But the whole pipe bomb was supposed to be about him leaving at the end of his contract, which his contract ended the night of Money in the Bank, storyline wise.
The pipe bomb was the catalyst for this match.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, this is where, I think, RestPass, you and I took this a little different, to where if whoever I was showing this to had questions to ask afterwards or something like that, I would answer them. I would probably show them the pipe bomb after the match and, sit there and be like, hey, this is why this was such a big deal. This was a defining point in professional wrestling. That, I think, is what put professional wrestling on the level where we're at today.
Yeah. Yeah, and mine was more in a bubble. This little section's in a bubble. You basically have to make your decision on if you're interested in wrestling from just this alone, which I think it does it with both. You don't need to know all that extra stuff, and I think it still does it.
Plus, it's a really good match.
Yeah, that's
really
the best
good match
of it.
Yeah. So RestPass, I stole your first one.
Yeah. You also referenced my number 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
The reason RVD and Cena was down to number 8 is because of the crowd, like you said. The reason why it's on 8, and I did not intend on referencing it, and I'll go very quickly about this. One, the storyline was not that great leading into it. It wasn't CM Punk Cena. It was basically RVD was cashing his Money in the Bank and wanted to win it. As the ECW. It was his first ever major title, which I guess was a storyline in itself. But
he's won the main title. He had won the IC.
He never had the ECW heavyweight title either.
That's true.
He had never won a main title.
Yep.
Up to that point, so that was a storyline. But again, you don't get that from the pre-match package they had and everything like that. You do a little bit, but not really. You don't understand that as not a fan. And the ending with Edge basically helping RVD win it. I didn't really like that ending. So as I'm talking about it, it was low on my list. It was on my list purely because that crowd rivals the Chicago crowd.
That crowd, I think, is better than the Chicago crowd just because of it's an ECW crowd.
Yeah. Which also had If Cena Wins, We Riot.
Yes.
And it was first, so it's better.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I will jump to what I guess is my new number 1, since you stole my number 1, Walt. That would be Sasha Banks and Bayley at TakeOver Brooklyn.
Fuck you.
I do not believe this is the better match. I will preface it with this. I believe that their Iron Man match was better, and we've talked about this before. Me, as a fan, I like the Iron Man match better. Or Iron Woman match, I guess.
No, it said they called it an Iron Man match, which they were very purposeful about that.
Right.
Because it was an Iron Man match. And
yeah.
I really love that they did that. This isn't the match we're talking about, but I very love that they did that and they kept it an Iron Man match because that's what it was.
The reason why I went with this one, because again, we're going... in my mind, I was going in a bubble. The pre-match package was better for this. the lead into it was better because it had talked about how
Pique
Bayley
got a call from the war room about this match.
Yep.
it had talked about how Bayley was kind of
she was left
the
out.
forgotten four horsewoman.
It was a great package because like I remember it was all of them. I think it was all of them fading out or Bayley.
No, it was Bayley
out.
Was slowly fading out as
the other
it was
three,
the four of them, and they'd all
when we
actually.
When we say the four of them, we mean Sasha Banks,
that's what I was
Becky
trying to
Lynch,
get into, Walt.
Charlotte.
If you let me talk about my match that I'm talking about.
Sorry,
I'm
narcissistic.
I didn't cut you off.
I'm narcissistic. This is about me.
The four horsewomen: Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. So at this point, Charlotte and Becky Lynch had been up on the main roster. I believe, and I could be wrong about this, that Sasha Banks was up in the main roster at that point too. As
she was
champion.
in. She was. They made that because she had a match at SummerSlam. It was I forget what the group was called. It was her, Tamina, and Naomi were. I forget what the hell their
either way,
team name is. Yeah.
Bayley was the only one still kind of down at NXT. She was kind of, they played off that whole she's the forgotten four horsewoman kind of, and she was still trying to win the title at that point. So it was, as an overall match, it was probably a better match. I just appreciated the Iron Man match a little bit more because of what Sasha Banks did in it. But the match was very well done. I mean, if you give a crap about Meltzer, which I know Peachy doesn't, but if you give a crap about his ratings, this was actually rated higher as a match. It was 4.5 as opposed to 4.25. But the match was very well done, and the post-match was not as cheesy as the second post-match. If you remember right, the second post-match, they gave flowers to Bayley and Sasha Banks.
Well, that was because it was
an Iron Man match, and at main event, it was the first main event takeover. Yep. I get that part of it, but it's a cheesy ending. I don't want to show somebody this is wrestling and be like, oh, what did they give every woman at the main event? There was no. If they're in a bubble right there, and I can't explain this to them, and you're seeing both women get flowers at the end of it, to me that's weird.
And I don't know if I didn't look at it for this, but I don't know with the video package for Sasha Bayley 2, the Iron Man match, if it called out saying this was the first women's match to main event.
It does.
It does. Okay.
Yeah, it does. Like I said, I watched kind of all of it leading into this. I had 18 at one point, so it does. But it was just that I liked it better being like Bayley was the forgotten one. She hadn't won the title yet. All that other stuff. I'm pretty sure to face Sasha Banks, she had beat Charlotte, and then William Regal made a match where she had to wrestle Becky Lynch for the number one contendership. So she basically had to beat all three of the other four horsewomen to finally win this title. The match was a very good match. It was an excellent match. Women's, men's, I don't care. It was an excellent match. There was a lot of big spots in that match. So as far as wrestling in general, I think anybody could appreciate it. So the fact that it was two women wrestling, where I know the Revolution, this is pretty much thought of to have kicked it off, pretty much,
that's what I was going to say. This is the match that started the whole. That showed that women were on the same page as men.
Right. It was.
Because again, Kevin Owens and Finn Balor in a ladder match had to follow that.
Yeah,
and they couldn't. They simply did not.
Yeah, they absolutely, and that was the other reason why I was thinking of the other one. The what was it? Respect, I think, is what it was called. Takeover Respect was where the Iron Man match was the end.
It was Respect.
But that was why I kind of was thinking of that one. But the ending of this with Bayley, I think Charlotte and Becky Lynch came out and gave her a hug. And Sasha came over and gave her a hug. Like, it was cheesy, but not the whole women's roster coming out and handing you flowers cheesy. So, I think this would be a really good match for a newcomer coming back to it. Like, look, there's actually women's wrestling too.
It's not a bra and panties match anymore.
Yeah,
probably like someone new coming into wrestling. They remember it like as the Trish Stratus era, to where like it was just bra and panties matches, things like that. This is not that, and this is on par, if as we said, if not better than kind of the men's stuff. Yeah, you touched on everything I had to say about this match.
Was that on your list?
It was on my list, yeah.
You were hoping I was going to say respect, so you can say this one afterwards, right?
I was actually I probably would have picked another one just because just to make it a little, to switch things up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, no, you touched on everything. Why I think this is such a great match. I think it's a must see for a wrestling fan.
Ah, yeah.
But even as a new person coming in, like even early on, like this is something like, hey, here's where we're at. Here's the state of women's wrestling now, and show them that match. I would even show them the whole, like that whole Takeover Brooklyn, just to say, like, you're in this small bubble of here's just this match, how great this match is. Look at where this match fell at comparatively to everything else.
Yeah.
Because on that pay-per-view, you also had Tyler Breeze versus Liger. You had the Vaudevillains versus was it Murphy and I forget what the hell that team name was. Buddy Murphy and Alexa Bliss. Blake and Murphy, thank you. And Levy Bates came out for Blue Pants as like the surprise. And then I think you had what was it? Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews match, maybe?
I don't know. I didn't watch the whole pay-per-view right now. I watched that match.
Okay. So, but there, you would see that. So, nah, good match. Yep, I agree. Peach, have you seen that match?
I do not think so.
I highly recommend checking out that match. I think it's
the Sasha Bailey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either or.
I would say both of them are worth watching.
Yeah. It really makes you appreciate kind of what women's wrestling is now. Alrighty, so Peach. So if you don't have a match, which is, it's fine. Here, I was thinking about this as we were talking, and this might have been actually a better way to spin it for you. Are there matches that you watched that kind of got you a little bit more into wrestling? Like, I know, like, I obviously didn't give you a chance to think about that beforehand, but is there anything off the top of your head, like a match that you can talk about that kind of, like...
The Zayn Nakamura match at NXT, and it was probably because I was there.
So this was on my list, too. And Rest Pass, this is where I was, before we were talking and, like, we were saying the rules, I said, you know, are we in the room with this person as they're watching this match? Because the promo package for Zayn Nakamura... So, Peach, do you want to talk about it real fast? Because I can speak very heavily.
You know more about the promos and everything. I only saw it live. I didn't...
He only liked it because he's seen it live. That's basically...
Right, but that's
have
like
to bring a person... But you have to bring a person back in time.
No,
give them
take
tickets
them to the
show.
You take them to whatever the closest NXT, thing.
Well, no. So, Rust Pass, we're switching the question for Peachy.
Yeah, I know.
This is something
I was kidding because I'm assuming, Peach, you were going to say this anyway before he switched it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the only reason why. He seemed prepared with that pretty quick, so I assumed that I know we're switching it now. I'm sorry. Yeah. I was joking.
No, so yeah, like the pre-package for that just had, it basically showed Sami Zayn, how he was the heart and soul of NXT. It showed this Nakamura guy who's just coming in new. The best part is if you show someone the pre-package and you start it at the right point, the minute the graphic comes up on the screen to show that it's like, I think it's Sami Zayn comes up first. The pop that happens in the arena when we realized that this was the next match was incredible. And it really gets you excited. And then it showed Nakamura coming over, strong style. You really don't know who this guy is. the crowd reaction through that entire match, it comes through very clear, I think, on the network, on television. And then even post-match, you have the giant, thank you, Sammy, Nakamura and Sami Zayn, like they shake hands. I don't think they hug or anything like that. But it was incredible. And then, my thought process is I'm sitting there watching this match with this person, and afterwards I would be like, I was there live for that match, and the feeling in the room during that match was incredible. I was thinking that was a live one that I would try to explain to someone that I was there for. It was that or Gargano Almas, Andrade Cien Almas. But I would choose Nakamura Zayn over that one. But
did you've watched it since going to it?
Oh, this isn't an exaggeration. I've probably watched that match at least 10 times. That takeover.
Do you think it comes over on TV as well as it did in person?
Oh yeah. I don't know. I will get goosebumps watching that match. As cheesy as that sounds, just from because then it just reminds us when we were down there for WrestleMania. Cool experience. Again, that's one of the it was a bucket list dream for RestPass and myself to kind of do that whole experience the way we did. Yeah. So it just takes me back to that and that feeling. But yeah, I think it comes over perfectly on TV.
Now, I will say this, and I know this was the very first episode, right? Was the Gargano Almas and Nakamura. The one thing I will say, and Walton kind of touched on it a little bit, it's hard to take away the fact that you were there when you're watching it again. It's hard. It's hard to.
And the reason
I know it does come over the crowd and stuff. You get it, but I felt the same way. I watched it, and I just remembered being there. It's hard to take that part out of your mind.
But if you look at the match itself, the way it's structured, it's very fast-paced. It's only about 20 minutes, so not a whole lot of investment time for the person to watch. I think Cena Punk is, I think that's closer to 30, 35 minutes, all in all. Same thing with Bayley, Sasha. I think that's a little bit closer to 25 minutes. But Zayn Nakamura is only 20 minutes. Very fast-paced, very hard-hitting. So even though, we have the bias of being there live, I think it still comes across really well on TV. So that's match for Jesus Christ, hungover podcast. Peach, so that was a match for you that really got that
it
you would want to
open me up to NXT, and I like NXT better than the main roster.
Filthy casual or flirty casual, if you must. So that was actually on my list. That was kind of on the cusp. And it would just be because I would want to explain to the person, oh, I was there live for this match. It is a good match. All right, so you want to go with my number 2? So RestPass, this is probably on your list as well. As I'm thinking of this topic, I want to show a Undertaker match from WrestleMania. I think
now.
Huh?
If are you going with an Undertaker WrestleMania match right here?
Yes.
Wasn't even on my top 18. Guarantee
really?
That.
Okay. So I had 3 to pick from that I think would be great matches to show someone. Arguably the greatest WrestleMania match to ever happen, Undertaker Shawn Michaels at 25. Their follow-up at 26, which is Shawn Michaels' retirement match. Or to me, one that I really enjoyed and is my favorite of the bunch is the Undertaker Triple H Hell in a Cell match at 28 with Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. Because in that match, there's one point to where I thought Undertaker was going to lose. When Michaels super kicks him right into the pedigree and then he kicks out. That gets me, that really gets me pumped. But to show them an Undertaker match, it's got to be the WrestleMania 26 Shawn Michaels retirement match. The build-up for that I thought was great. It highlights the package highlights the streak, what Shawn Michaels is willing to go to end the streak, to think that he can, because I believe in the package they talk about it's the Shawn Michaels like Slammy Award where he won for Match of the Year, and I think he even says, "I can beat him," and like that just starts the feud there. And I believe, I don't know if it's in there, but see, this is where I didn't watch the pre-package for that. I was going off of memory for this. I believe it goes into because Undertaker was champion. Shawn Michaels was trying to win the Royal Rumble, lost the Royal Rumble at the very end, so he couldn't challenge Taker for the title. Interfered in the Elimination Chamber match. That was the build-up to Mania, where Jericho ended up winning the title. Shawn Michaels interfered in order to force Taker for this match. The match itself was incredible. Not as good as their first one, but just with everything else surrounding it, I think it makes it a little bit better. And then at the end, you obviously have Shawn Michaels' retirement, him walking out of the ring, to close WrestleMania. I think that's a great match to kind of just show. And it was also, the reason why I did it is because I think a person would know The Undertaker or Shawn Michaels. And you have that kind of little hook in there of like, okay, I remember The Undertaker. I maybe watched one or two wrestling things when I was growing up, and I remember The Undertaker. He's still wrestling, and it has a hook that could get the person to be interested in the match. I'm surprised. I'm surprised the Taker match didn't make your list, Russ Pass.
Well, I think I said this to you before. I don't think I said it on here. When the original question was brought up, and this is how I posed the question on Twitter and Reddit and everything, we had mentioned if somebody was never a fan or if they haven't watched it in a long time. So I kind of went with the never watched it in a long time as opposed to never been a fan. So I had a couple old matches on here just in case some of my other matches got taken. But I went through this process where really it was no match kind of since Austin retired. So we're talking 2003, 2004. Now, in my mind, if you were a fan then, you know, like you just said, you know who Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker is, right?
Yep.
It's hard for me to show somebody a match to get back into the product of two guys that they've seen wrestle countless times before. And that's just the way I kind of had it in my head.
And it's also, I don't know, I forget what year that was. It was not that long after Austin retired.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not saying it was
only like 6 years after it. So like,
yeah.
If someone was watching it up until that point, it's only been like 6 years since they watched it. So they still kind of know a good amount about it.
Yeah, they have an understanding of the streak and stuff like that. Again, and that's the way I kind of took this question. Now, I will say I have an Austin match and an Undertaker match that both happened before Austin retired on this list, but I'm kind of going to stay away from them because I was using that to kind of justify my list, which means now I got to figure out something else. But my second one, I'll think of the third one after this. My second one.
Well, you have a list of 18.
What?
You have a list of 18. You don't got to think of.
Well, I got rid of most of them, so I have to remember what I had on that list.
Okay.
I obviously don't want to go RVD John Cena. I already kind of blew that one off.
Yeah.
But my number two, and I hate the fact that me and Peachy now both have nothing but NXT matches on here. My number two is what I expected you to say first, Walt, because it kind of, in my mind, launched this topic, and it would be Adam Cole, Ricochet.
That one spot.
Yeah, if you remember right, you said you wanted a certain somebody to see the match because you knew it was going to be crazy spots and stuff like that.
I forget what match actually. I'll try to think of what actually got me to really think of this topic. It wasn't. That was in the NXT card. That was like, okay, like there's going to be some flippy stuff in there, and it'd be a cool match, but not. I don't. Yeah, go ahead. No, please.
Well, and that's what brought me to putting this on the list, because I'm not thinking of the best matches of all time, stuff like that. Storyline wise, it wasn't an awful story. There was some, ever since the North American ladder match for the first North American champion, Ricochet is up there, right? If I remember right, wasn't he the one that he almost had the title, and then Adam Cole steals it from him
down.
They did it pretty good. It wasn't the greatest storyline now, but it was a pretty long term one. It had some backstory to it. The pre-match package gave you what's been going on. That match, I've seen some things I've never seen happen before in a match. Me personally, in 2018, being somebody who's watched wrestling for a very long time. Now, I've never seen really Ricochet prior to NXT. But I seen stuff in that match that wowed me, so I can only assume from somebody who has not watched wrestling in 14 years at least, that's got to wow them.
Yep.
Seeing what I seen in that match had to have wowed them.
There's a match there. I will say I have a match on my list that I don't know if I want to make it number 3. I might make it an honorable mention, depending on how much time we have afterwards, that is touching on everything you're saying.
Right.
Except I think it does it better. And based off what you're saying, I don't think you've seen the match.
Well, the other reason why I'm picking this match is because it's 2 of the hottest names in NXT, which you're going to be seeing these guys for years and years and years. So in that sense, not only is it bringing somebody back into it, it's giving them names that are on the uptick in WWE. Now, if you're going to start watching again, you're going to see more of these guys. So that kind of swayed this into my top. It was in my top 5 before all this other talking happened, but now it's my number 2. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Nah, it was a good match. Definitely that spot. Yeah, and even like Adam Cole, his the Adam Cole Bebe thing, like that's just like it's cool. It's like from like, oh, okay, like the fans like really go crazy for that. So
right.
No, it's a good match. So Peach, is there another match, like something that you could bring up, or actually did you see that match? Cole versus Ricochet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Is that the second match on this list you've seen?
Third. Remember? I've seen the one that I went to. Remember?
True.
I was trying to think what other one was it.
Sasha Bailey.
Yeah, I thought you said you didn't see that.
No, I think I saw the Sasha Bailey one because that was still when they were in NXT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, so to get somebody interested into, like, would you do the just low-hanging fruit, just bait them in with some kind of celebrity that they know their name of? Like, a lot of people know Brock Lesnar's name. Do you just show them a Brock Lesnar match?
I thought about doing a Brock Lesnar match.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was almost opinion-based a little bit. So if that's the way you're justifying a match.
I kind of did... The way I took it was I did a little bit mix of name value and my personal favorites. So like Cena Punk. Cena has name value. I'm trying not to sneeze. Oh, excuse me, man. That's gonna come great across on the podcast.
God bless you, Walt.
Thank you. I tried to do name value and to try to get the person involved, like, or invested a little bit into it. So like an Adam Cole Ricochet match, like that to me it could be a little bit difficult because of this. The person has no idea who these people are, and if they're not hooked right away, it's going to be hard to get them in there. I have a Ricochet match on my list. It's nobody. They're not going to know any of these names in this match. So, but I think it's a good match that someone would enjoy. But Peach, what else were you kind of saying?
Because I was thinking like the Ronda Rousey match at Mania, like that's something where it's people that haven't seen it for a while because Triple H, and then it being mixed gender, mixed tag team with Ronda Rousey's name, like that could even get more women into it than just a Brock Lesnar UFC fan.
Yeah, no, like I was thinking of Ronda Rousey matches. Again, like for me, I think it was like I had a bias to I wanted some of my personal favorite matches on there, or matches I just generally enjoy watching. Because again, the way I was interpreting the question, I'm there with the person, so I can answer it or like kind of gush about it afterwards or anything like that to say like, oh yeah, I really love Cena Punk. It's one of my favorites. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. All that stuff.
Would you actually wait until afterwards?
I would try my best to, but like it's going to be hard if the person asks you a question and you're like, I can't answer that right now. This is for science. You have to learn to like this yourself. Yeah, it'd be hard to do that, but I would try my best not to try to give unbiased opinions or things like that. Kind of let them experience it. Peach, do you have another match that possibly got you into wrestling or things like that?
Yep. Cactus Jack versus Terry Funk.
Where at? Was it in ECW days?
Yeah, ECW days, 97-ish. Well, it was like Cactus Jack and Terry Funk when they were like at each other's throats, and then Public Enemy came and like disturbed their match, and they kind of teamed up. And Public Enemy was in the center of the ring, and Cactus Jack says, "Give me a chair," and then all the chairs get thrown in.
Okay.
But that was like one of the ones that got me into wrestling, and I think it's like one of ECW's most iconic moments. So, like, showing, like, it was a good match as well at, what was it, Hardcore Heaven?
I don't know. You're the,
it's an older match, but it's still fun, and, like, Terry Funk still has, his name credibility. And people have heard of Cactus Jack or Mankind or Mick Foley.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, like, I try to avoid some older matches. Like, Respace, I'm assuming, like, based off what you said, I can guess some of your ones, and they are older. And I just tried to avoid them just because of, it's not what you get nowadays. Right. It's not, like, the current product or anything like that. But, no, that's a good, I'm assuming, like, from the ECW pay-per-views you used to watch with your uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Man. I think I went over with you once to watch one and fell asleep. So yeah, so my third match, and this is tricky for me because I really have two contenders. I wanted to go off the beaten trail a little bit, and one of them happened very recently, and when I say very recently, I mean a week ago. The other happened just a few years ago. I don't know which one to go with. I'm assuming neither of these matches are on your list.
What happened a week ago?
All In.
Oh.
So I'm gonna bend the rules a little bit since it's my podcast, not your guys. It's my podcast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give a 3A 3B answer here. So. The two matches...
well, I assume I'm going to mention so many other matches after this third one.
It's just hard. Like, I could show either one of these. So, one of them is Ricochet versus Will Ospreay, Best of Super Juniors 2016. Because that's the match that really got me more into the independent scene. And the amount of... that match was the one that blew up the internet because of... it was more choreographed than, like, a wrestling match. So, like, they do all the crazy flippy stuff. It's very entertaining for someone to, like, just be amazed at the athleticism of the match. And it's a great match. It got so much heat. There's no pre-promo video or anything like that. It's just two guys in the ring fighting. And doing all this crazy flippy stuff. The other match that I'm probably leaning more towards that I would show someone is Hangman Page versus Joey Janela from All In. Yep.
Oh man.
It had so here's my stretching it, how it has everything. It tells a great story of how Hangman Page killed Joey Ryan. You get callbacks to him killing. First off, the hardcore match itself, that was brutal. That the one spot where Janela takes the bump off the stage, he just smacks his head against the table. I thought he died. So from a match standpoint, it's a great hardcore match to show someone. The pre-build up, you have the Hangman Page killing Joey Ryan in the pre-packaged promo, all that stuff. And then after the match, you have the Dick Druids come out, and Joey Ryan does the penis flip, and Hangman Page gets carried out by Dick Druids. And to me, that is the greatest thing happening in professional wrestling today. It is incredible. I loved it, and I think it's absolutely hilarious and so stupid and so just off the wall. And it shows, to me, it actually shows why wrestling is enjoyable, because you can have a very serious hardcore match, but then you have Dick Druids come out at the end of the match with a guy that looks like a Ron Jeremy ripoff flip a guy with his penis, and to me it gets the comedy value in it, and I think that's why I would show someone that match. It has a little bit of everything in there. I'm assuming that was on your list, Russ Pass?
No.
No,
it was not.
But my honorable mention would be Ricochet versus Ospreay, Best of the Super Juniors. Any thoughts on my match there?
Peach, did you see that match?
Just the clip, and that would not get me into wrestling.
You went completely. Please do not show anybody I want to get into wrestling a match. Well,
it would be that one.
Don't.
Well, that's the thing. I only showed you the end clip. You didn't see the actual match. I think you would like the match itself.
But the moment that clip happens, for somebody who used to be into wrestling, the moment that clip happens, I think it scares more people away than it keeps them there.
It's intrigued. It glues them. They're like, what's happening here? Why is he eating a lollipop? Why is he lathering himself up in baby oil? Wait, how is he flipping if he's just holding his penis? I don't get it. And that's fine. That is
the crowd interaction.
Leave them wanting more.
Leave them wanting more.
The rest in penis chant was a nice touch by the crowd.
Exactly. It has a little bit of everything, and it's relatively recent. So I'm going with Joey Janela versus Hangman Page.
Man,
what do you got, Russ Pass?
Okay, well I'm gonna go write down my thinking of all these other matches and why I didn't include them real quick. I really wanted to squeeze Omega Okada in here. I just couldn't. That series, I feel like you need to watch match after match after match.
Which one?
After match.
Which one would
I
be
would have had if I had picked one, it would have been the last one.
The 2 out of 3 falls?
Yes. Purely because it was the end of it. But no offense to New Japan, but if we're talking just pre-package and stuff like that, it's just not the same. The value there that you're getting for the rundown of what that build up to, I don't think hit is home as well as me watching all 4 of them straight. Well, I guess 3 of them when we were preparing for our episode about the 4th match. So me, I was invested, but I don't know if showing one of these matches does enough than just showing them all 4.
When I look at those, I thought, I look at, okay, let me show them the first one. because I think that one, there's not as much to explain there, and plus it's a really great match.
Yeah.
The second one, I'm like, the second one's one of the best, greatest wrestling matches ever.
Everybody knows the second one's the best.
Exactly. But when you're looking at a new person, they have to dedicate a full hour to it, if not more. The first match was like 40-something minutes or something like that. So that's a long time to say, hey, sit down for an hour and watch this. Second match, again, sit down for an hour. The third match is probably the best one to show a new person because it's only like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, because it was their G1 match and it had a 30-minute time limit.
No.
The fourth match, I think you're probably looking at an hour and a half of a person sitting down to watch everything, and that it's just hard to. I think it's hard for someone to appreciate what's going on in that match, any of those matches. Just like, hey, watch this.
Yeah, and that's why I said, and I made sure I said this at the beginning. It has nothing to do with what I think is the best matches ever.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the best storyline ever. I think hitting everything and thinking, again, it's either a new person watching it or a returning person. What I think would keep them wanting to watch more wrestling. So that's why I couldn't add any of the Mega Okada. You hit just as much as I did on that. I wanted to squeeze a Young Bucks match on here. Desperately I did.
The one I would squeeze on there would probably be Bucks versus the Hardys in the ladder match, because you get some name value. It's a really good match.
Well, that's we were at. I don't know if you were actually at that one. Well, I was at the House of Hardcore where the Hardys. Were you were at that one, right?
I was not. No, I was mad because it was the Hardys had just gotten re-signed or something, or the Young Bucks were supposed to wrestle and they got hurt, and like the Hardys wrestled or something like that. It was weird, but I was pissed I didn't go.
No. The match was the Young Bucks against the Hardys.
Oh, was it?
At House of Hardcore.
Oh, okay.
It was the time, I believe, Del Rio showed up.
I wasn't at that. I wasn't at that one.
You were at the Mysterio one?
Yes.
The one Rey Mysterio show? Okay. Well, I remember that match. I believe, if I remember correctly, that was Jeff Hardy's first time appearing at House of Hardcore. I think Matt Hardy had shown up once or twice before that, but I remember watching that match, and it was awesome.
They weren't broken at that time, were they?
No. And I've actually rewatched the match, but there's no real storyline to it. As fun as the match was, it just I don't about showing just somebody showing that match to them. But yeah, there was multiple Young Bucks. I talked to you. There was the All-Star Extravaganza ROH New Japan in 2016. It was a ladder wars match between Young Bucks, the Addiction, and Motor City Machine Guns. I seen bits and pieces of it, so I kind of couldn't put it on there because I didn't see the full match. Again, Bret Hart, Stone Cold. I mean, a lot of people I seen put that as their answers when I asked the question. That is an amazing match, but I didn't want to go before Stone Cold retired. Yeah,
that's what I think. That's what, like, that match is hard for me to put on there because, like, it's a great match and it's a great, like, it's just hard, I think, to hook someone with that match. Like, I think.
See, but like, the pre-package was really well done at the time. Yeah. It was showing how Bret Hart was this beloved guy. You know, he was out for 6 months and he came back and everything had changed. And you know, DX was forming and you got Stone Cold being Stone Cold.
What?
And he was basically like, this is a joke. This isn't wrestling. You know, it was, you know, you had this beloved Bret Hart character is now turning. And this guy that's going out there drinking beer, beating the hell out of everybody, the fans are now cheering. And the way that match ended with Stone Cold passing out, he never actually quit in a submission match.
That was the double turn, right?
Yeah. And then Bret Hart goes to beat him down after the fact, and Ken Shamrock, who I believe was not a wrestler yet,
he was like the special
was
guest
the referee. Yeah, but he was not a wrestler yet, and he basically stops Bret Hart from beating down Austin. But again, I wanted to go more with people who had already watched wrestling, and they probably stopped when Stone Cold retired, so they've probably seen this match already.
True.
Again, the Undertaker match I went with was Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, but it was not at WrestleMania. It was the first ever Hell in a Cell.
That's a good one.
And
you also get the Kane debut there.
Yep.
You get a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot to that, but I thought the storyline was not as well done leading into the match.
I forget what the storyline was.
The pre-package was not that great. So, all that being said, I did not want to put a personal favorite of mine, but I'm going to put a personal favorite of mine.
Before you start, there was one match, and I don't think since you said personal favorite, I'm not worried that this is it. Another honorable mention, and this more has name value to it, that I was thinking of adding to my list, was Cena Rock from WrestleMania 28.
Okay.
Not a great match, but a good pre-package. A good kind of post-match thing. Just it's Cena sitting on the ramp, and he lost. You get Flow Rider, so it has a lot of name values that someone can kind of grasp to, especially now, with how big of a movie star The Rock is. You get to see Rock in the ring with Cena, as close to two wrestlers at their prime as you're gonna get. I thought about Hogan and The Rock, but I thought Hogan Rock is the better match, but I think Rock Cena has a little bit more draw just because of name values. The one match I didn't put on there, and let me go with yours, because I don't know if this is a personal favorite of yours. I don't think it is, but I don't want to say it without.
Well, the two that I was fighting with for this third one, they were both personal favorites of mine. Both involve Cena. Which I found surprising that when I got down to 18, 4 of them had Cena involved. I was a little shocked by that.
Listen, Cena's good. Cena can
and
put on matches when he needs to.
The one that I cut out of this was the Miz Cena at WrestleMania.
I wanted to put that on there simply for the prepackaged promo.
Yes, and that was the only reason. I did not like the way that match ended.
No, it was weird.
Even though The Rock was involved, and there's that part of it, but that's why I left that one off. I'm going to go with Kevin Owens, John Cena, Elimination Chamber.
Was that their first match?
Yes. Kevin Owens was NXT champion. John Cena was the U.S. champion. John Cena had his U.S. Open challenge. And who comes out? Kevin Owens.
God,
but not only does he come out, he tells him, I don't want your U.S. title. We're going to fight. But he comes out and says, I'm a prize fighter, but I already have my prize. And he shows the NXT championship. And he basically calls him out and says, I don't want your title. I just want to beat you. And the pre-package for that is awesome. As much as I want to do the second match, I love when he originally came out. He had just dominated Sami Zayn in NXT to win that title. And he just came out like a beast. And it's one of those things where if you're just coming back to wrestling, you might know who John Cena is, but you don't know who Kevin Owens is. And you're seeing this guy who's coming out in his first match beating John Cena. Not only did he beat him clean.
Yep.
There was no distractions, nothing. He beat him clean. It was just impressive to see him come out there and beat Cena in his first ever match. And it's a personal favorite of mine, and I still hate the fact that they're screwing up with Kevin Owens because they had gold in their hand right there. But I love that match.
I think they're starting to bring him back.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, it was a good match. It was a good, again, great build-up. I remember when he debuted, I flipped shit. No idea Kevin Owens. You just hear his music. The only thing they got wrong with his debut that night was they did it in the wrong town. I forget what town it was, but the audience had no idea who he was. I think like if you would have did that in like a New York, a Philadelphia, Chicago, or hell, even in Montreal, the roof would have been blown off the arena to hear Kevin Owens' music and that whole play out. But then it also, I think it worked in their favor because he was supposed to be a bad guy, and you didn't have the entire arena cheering for him. So, Peach, do you have like a third match or something like that you can kind of
but I have a
to?
question. Like, would you show somebody like just Raw and SmackDown, like the current here's live? This will get you back into wrestling.
No,
because you don't think
I would show them an episode of NXT before I would show them Raw or SmackDown.
And it's more timing. Like it's like you're asking a person to dedicate 3 hours of a Monday night to watch wrestling instead of their normal shows.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And SmackDown's 2 hours. Like SmackDown, I think would be the better one to possibly show. But then again, I think it's really hard because there's not a lot of name values there. Like I would probably show them SmackDown over Raw because SmackDown you at least have The Miz. I'm thinking I'm showing someone they're probably somewhere between 25 and 35. They watch The Real World. They would recognize who The Miz is possibly from The Real World, and they can kind of attach there. Maybe because SmackDown also has Jeff Hardy. They might remember him from growing up. Oh, yeah, he did the flip thing on someone and just kind of tie in there.
Do you think SmackDown has like better like quality that you can count on every week?
It usually does.
Yeah, from a wrestling standpoint, I believe it does.
Oh. Burping right into the microphone. Nick's not going to be happy about that one. Yeah, Raw's just it's too hard to sit through that.
And that's even you.
But like, Raw actually. So I apologize. Raw, you do have more names because you do have Lesnar. Well, Lesnar's not there anymore, but you have Ronda Rousey. You did have Lesnar, but that's 3 hours, and that's a lot to get through. You do get some more interesting characters on the Raw side though, with like Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, like the Shield. Getting together. If Finn Balor comes out dressed up as the Demon, that's kind of cool. So there is a lot enough there that you could do something, but I think that would be
the programming's not consistent enough to get somebody.
And even like to your point, I don't know if I would show someone NXT. Like
no, but if you're showing somebody coming back into it, the product. I'd rather show them NXT because an episode of NXT usually has at least one good match. At least. Where I don't know that you can count on that on an episode of Raw or SmackDown.
Just NXT I think would be hard just because again I'm looking at it like it definitely wins because it's only an hour, a little less than an hour, so it's a lot easier for someone to dedicate the time to.
Is it PG?
It's all PG.
Everything's PG.
Yeah. But they also would have to watch longer for more payoffs because remember there's only 5 takeover specials a year. So we just watched. There was the takeover in August in Brooklyn. Your next takeover is not until November for Survivor Series.
And I get that. I think I'm just thinking, if you're going to show somebody a one-off episode of something and say, this is what the product is now, you're going to be more interested in what's going on at NXT than you probably are in Raw and SmackDown.
I would never, for this, say someone, hey, just watch Raw. Like, if I wanted them, hey, sit down and watch something, I would say, hey, come over and watch NXT. Like a takeover special.
But that's I'm going to what PG's question was.
Yeah, just weekly programming.
Okay. Yeah, if you were going to would you just show them weekly programming? I agree with you, and I think it's no in all cases. But I would show them NXT before I would show them the others.
True. Peach, from your side, like we can pseudo turn this into like a Peach Pit type questionnaire or something like that, but like anything, like questions like for like what would you want to see as someone like as a more like casual person, like what's the kind of stuff you want to see
for wrestling? Like I'd rather see wrestling. I don't really care too much about the promos and stuff. I don't care about the theater. I just like a fun wrestling match. I like seeing like the dumb spots and the outrageous things. Like Kofi's one of my favorites because he just does Kofi things. Like I think if independent was more accessible, I'd probably watch more independent stuff. But WWE's
it's pretty. I think after All In, it's going to start getting a lot more accessible. I mean, right now you have like Honor Club, which is $10 a month or something like that, and you can live. But yeah, it's like you don't know Ring of Honor, and it's just hard. Like, hey, Peach, here's Ring of Honor. Just start paying $10 a month to watch this.
Right.
New Japan World you pay in yen, so that's going to be hard to get someone in there to watch that. Even though it is a little bit cheaper, I think it's like comes to like $9.60 a month or something like that.
And how much is Impact's?
I don't
Impact
know.
Has something, but I actually want to ask a quick question to you, Walt. Do you think, from a casual fan standpoint, and maybe PG, you could probably answer this too. Now you're saying there's $10 a month for ROH, there's $10 a month for New Japan. Let's say it's $10 a month for the Impact, whatever they have. If I were to say pay $20 a month and you get access to all three of them, you get New Japan, Ring of Honor, and Impact. I guess, Peach, would you be more likely if I'm saying, hey, you're getting 3 different independent shows for a price a month?
Right, if they discount it or whatever, but like that's still that. I think that's the subscription to a casual fan isn't really going to happen.
You instead of one company of wrestlers a person doesn't know, you have 3 companies of wrestlers. Seriously, like that's.
I know. I agree with you in that sense, but I guess I'm thinking like
I would eat the shit out of that deal.
And I guess from a wrestling fan's perspective, that's amazing, and maybe that's why that was like in my head. But I'm thinking the only way you can compete with a casual fan or somebody who's just getting into it is obviously going to go to the WWE Network. If they had to pick any, it's WWE Network.
Plus, it's also cool too because like, and I've had this experience like when people brought up the network and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, it's $10 a month. Remember when wrestling pay-per-views used to be $50 or $60, and you would pay that every month to watch it? Well, now you just pay $10 a month, and they're like, wait a minute, what? It's that cheap now? It's like, yeah. Now the quality I think has degraded a lot, but
you think about this. Let's say you pay for the Big Four every year, or hell, you pay for WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble every year. Now you're essentially paying that same price over the course of a monthly price instead of paying $60 in lump sums twice throughout the year, and you get to see everything else.
Yep.
Do the other, like the independent guys, have like the same setups where they have like the back catalogs and everything where you can just search and go through?
I think Ring of Honor does. I forget if it New Japan I know does. I think Ring of Honor does. Ring of Honor is cool though too because you can also stream all of their like house shows and stuff. Like they broadcast them on their thing. So yeah, I think any of these you can definitely get a back catalog. I think Impact actually, it's not. You don't have a back catalog per se, but they have a Twitch channel that just is always streaming some sort of episode of Impact or one of their pay-per-views or something like that.
And I guess that's what I was thinking. Some type of like all in service.
I see what you did there.
But they included the House of Hardcore shows and everything. Get them all grouped together under one. One little network. It makes it easier for a casual fan to search things out.
Yeah, but and also just leaving it on.
This year.
You leave their live broadcasting on. You don't really have to pay attention to it, but a lot of people use that just for like noise. put something on TV just to watch, and having something like that would be.
I know it would never happen. It doesn't make any sense for any of those to be like, yeah, sure, I'll take my $1 per person instead of $10. Like, I know it wouldn't happen. But
I think it actually it makes more sense than you, because you're trying to get people hooked. Like that's the thing. And
that's my mind is I would do it in a heartbeat. If you told me I can get basically every independent show and some that I didn't even know they had broadcasts, like local broadcasts, to jump in on this, and I had to pay $19.99 a month, I'm more likely to do that than get one here, one there, one here. And even if it added up to the same amount, it's just a lot of here, there. If everything's all under the same catalog, almost like the network is, where you could just go, because the network's got ECW, it's got all the old school stuff in it. There's WCW stuff in it, all that. So I don't know.
But that's just because WWE, became the monster and bought everything up.
Yeah, and that's what they were still continuing to try to do, right? Weren't they in talks with like TNA for like their old stuff?
They were trying to buy Impact's back catalog, I think.
Yeah, their video library.
Yeah, and I think because a lot of it just because of the guys now, like Joe, Styles, even the Hardys, like for the broken stuff, they wanted to get that.
Yeah.
But now they just buy talent.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at their share today, and it's like $87 a share. So they do have money they have fuck you money to say, I'll buy up every talent.
Yeah, what's it like? It's $3.2 billion or whatever. WWE's worth.
Probably. I don't know what the net worth is now. Yeah, it's probably up there. WWE is a publicly traded company at 87. Disney, for reference, is at 110. So WWE is almost at the same share level as Disney.
I bet there's a lot less shares and more buyback.
I probably. I don't know. I don't understand financials enough to. I'm just looking at it
giant media conglomerate of Disney.
I'm just looking at it for face value. Disney is currently at $110 a share. WWE's at 87.
Okay. Let's not stay on this topic. Okay. I will move this along here.
Good,
to stay on our topic of the week, I did put this out there on Twitter and Reddit. Unfortunately, we did not completely decide on this until a couple days ago. So I didn't ask this question until yesterday, I think. So the answers are a little less than some of the old questions I've asked on here. But just for a reference of some of the answers we got, one I expected from you, Peach, was Taker, Mankind, Hell in a Cell.
My God!
That is on there. We got Bret, Austin, WrestleMania 13. Bret, Bulldog, Survivor Series 92.
Was that the one in England?
Possibly.
I think it was.
See, that was actually Fico's insider, Mike Berry, put them on there.
Nice.
And then he put Triangle Tag Match, WrestleMania 16.
Yes.
And then he put Too Many. And he put Last 5 Years, Nakamura, Sami Zayn. So, Peach, there you go. Bailey, Sasha at Brooklyn. There I go. And Cena, Styles. Nobody else said that.
Which one? The one at really any of them.
Well, he just put Cena, Styles. He
I
didn't
think
put which one.
I would maybe.
Then he put Sleeper as Alexander versus Ibushi.
That's a good one. That's just a great match.
Then we got Shawn Michaels Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. Put best match I've seen. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, WrestleMania 10. Both so technically gifted. And The Rock versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17.
I wanted to get a Stone Cold match in there, but it was really hard. Like, compared to how I was doing the other ones, it was hard to find a good Stone Cold match.
Well, that was my thing. As much as I wanted to have a Stone Cold match, like I wanted so badly to put Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania.
That was up there for me with I wanted an Undertaker match more than a Shawn Michaels match.
Yeah, but that match, I still tear up just thinking about it.
Is that the big super kick?
Yeah. He says, "I'm sorry, I love you," and he super kicks Ric Flair.
And then a year later, Flair was wrestling in TNA.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, now onto Reddit. We have Sasha Bailey at Takeover Brooklyn. See, I'm a genius.
You're one with our fans.
Yes. Austin Bret, WrestleMania 13. Shibata Okada at Sakura Genesis. That sounds
like a bread.
That just missed Peachy's list. Hayabusa versus Anita. The person said just to make them crap their pants. And that or something from ECW.
I like Halloween marmalade. Hallowed marmalade.
What the hell?
Hallowed marmalade's the one that wrote that.
Oh, you're actually reading it too. We got Golden Lovers, Young Bucks. That's right. I just jumped down to the bottom. Peach, keep up. Brock versus Goldberg at WrestleMania from last year. This is.
I agree. Like that's a good. Again, it's like it's quick. It's not. They're not investing a lot of time for a new person, and that's where
you're getting name value. You're getting.
Well, that's I'll read the reasoning. There was a reasoning with this. It says, matter of fact, me and some friends of mine got another one of our friends into wrestling strictly by showing him Brock Lesnar matches. Say what you want about Brock, but the man is the only legit dude on the roster, and people recognize that. Brock is popular because he looks and carries himself like an actual tough guy. So, I guess I can understand that perspective. I mean, as an actual wrestling fan, I disagree. But I can understand why, if you're trying to get somebody who's not really into wrestling.
That's why Lesnar's still there. He's a draw.
Yeah, I can understand why somebody who's not into wrestling does not want to watch a CM Punk Daniel Bryan match as much as a wrestling fan does. You look at these two little guys, and you're like, what the hell happened to wrestling? So I can understand it. We got a TLC 2 or Foley Orton.
Oh, the hardcore match from WrestleMania. That's a brutal match. Oh no,
yeah.
No, I'm thinking of.
No, you're thinking Edge. Is that Edge Foley?
Yeah,
you're thinking of. But that was a brutal match. Edge Foley.
I can't think of the McFoley Orton match. I'm assuming it was during Orton's Legend Killer gimmick.
Legend Killer, yeah, I would assume so too. Actually, speaking of Edge Foley, as I was watching through these matches, I watched the RVD Cena at One Night Stand, and the match before it. Do you remember what match that was?
Offhand, I do not know. Nah.
It was an intergender 6-man tag.
Was it Dreamer, Buell, whatever the fuck her name is?
Buell McGillicuddy.
And I'm going to go with Terry Funk?
Yes.
Versus... Oh, was that Lita, Edge, and Foley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was when Mick Foley goes through the table of barbed wire. Funk had the lit up 2x4 that had barbed wire on it. And the ending of that match is amazing. It just is. It's Dreamer is putting... I cannot think of the name of the move. I think it's Cena. What the hell does Cena do? The STF. He's got the STF with the barbed wire around Edge's neck.
I know that spot you're talking
about. And then as he's doing that, I think Lita hits him or whatever, and then he gives Lita the Dreamer Driver, which I find this part hilarious. He gives Lita the Dreamer Driver, right? After Beulah comes in and stops Lita or whatever. Then Edge ends up doing something, whatever he ends up doing. He comes over and he spears Beulah. And Joey Styles goes nuts and says that's disgusting. How could you hit a woman like that? And I'm thinking, Tommy Dreamer just gave Lita the Dreamer Driver right before that. All he did was tackle her, technically.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like,
I guess I don't find it as funny as you do.
Yeah, I thought it was what? What's not funny about that?
It's
Joey
funny,
Styles
but...
went off about how could you hit a woman in an intergender match that Tommy Dreamer just went ahead and gave the Dreamer Driver to
maybe
to
he doesn't
Lita.
consider Lita a woman.
I guess so.
She's wrestling at Evolution against the match that she's wrestling Mickie James, which is kind of annoying because I think that should.
But do you remember how he pinned Beulah after that? Edge actually pins Beulah.
Doesn't he pin her like take both of her legs like in like a sexual position or something like that?
Yeah. And he like kind of like thrusts when they're counting the 3 count. I miss that Edge, the Rated R Edge, but that was just reminding me of how much I miss the Rated R Superstar.
The Rated R Superstar. That was my Tony Chimmel impression.
Okay, back to the list.
Yeah,
I would mention a recent one. They would like to tune in to keep up with the story. I would use SummerSlam's Samoa Joe AJ Styles. That actually makes sense for picking one of these matches.
I thought about putting Styles
continuous storyline.
I thought about putting Styles Nakamura on my list as one just because of the importance it serves for like the transition from kind of like New Japan, like the independent promotions, to the main event. Like we should have never gotten that match at WrestleMania, but. Right. Then the match itself just suffered, and I was just like, there are better matches that I would show someone.
Yeah. This next one also had TLC 2, Shibata Ishii at G1 23. Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and the Young Bucks versus Chris Hero, Candice LeRae, Joey Ryan, and Mike Bailey at Guerrilla Warfare. Peach, I know you have a lot to talk about that match, but we don't have enough time. Sorry.
Next time.
And then Mike Bailey versus Roderick Strong. A very simple story, great match. Again, Peachy, maybe next week.
If time permits.
Yes. So there you go. That was there were some good ones out there. Unfortunately, some matches I've never seen before.
Yeah. I think those like went down the hole a little too deep. Like of getting very to like the niche stuff.
Yeah, and again, the way I asked the question on there was not necessarily the way we did this week's topic either. So I wanted it to be more broad because, to be honest with you, me as somebody who's not as into the independents as I would like to be, I actually liked seeing matches of guys that I've never heard of and stuff like that. Yeah, it makes me want to possibly go back and watch some of these matches if other people, think of these matches as something to show somebody new. So,
yep. So, I guess with that being said, this was a fun topic. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
This is good.
I agree.
Good matches, and now
Peachy blew us out the water.
He contributed more than I expected.
I do agree with that.
One in a row.
But now, all of our listeners, they have matches that, if they're just listening to this because they're friends of ours, go out and watch some of these matches.
Yeah.
If you have friends that you want to get into wrestling, these are the matches you use as your gateway drug.
If you want to see any of these matches, because I'm pretty sure they're all... We only listed WWE matches, right?
I technically didn't. I listed... My last one was...
I ignored your last one. I forgot you were talking. Okay, so if you want to watch any of this stuff, Walton's got the WWE Network. I'm sure he will provide his username and password for you to watch it. You can watch any of these matches.
Is your password still the same?
I am.
Nope, it's changed.
I am not just talking about our friends. I'm talking about any of you listeners out there. Message us. I'll get Walton's information. You can watch whatever matches you want.
Yeah, that's a big no from here. Listen, you can get a free month of it. So if you haven't signed up for it before, use it. Watch some of these matches. Or like it's $10 a month. It's not for the WWE stuff. It's not a whole lot. So
yeah.
Yeah. So in the comments of this post or anything like that, let us know what matches maybe were your gateway drug, if you must, that got you into wrestling. I'll say real fast, and the one match that got me into professional wrestling, really, Undertaker, Yokozuna, Royal Rumble 92 or 93, I think, was the casket match. I just remember Undertaker, like, he popped up on the screen. I thought he was dead, and he was like, "You will rest in peace," and then he just floats through the ceiling in terrible graphics. But that match has always stuck with me as one of my, like...
You would have been like 5 or 6.
I saw it later. I didn't see it. Like, someone brought it over, and I watched it then. And I was like, oh my god, this is so cool.
If you're making that comment on Walton, you're going to hate my answer. Because I was not even 4 yet, but I remember seeing this match. Mine has to be Hogan Ultimate Warrior. I remember where I was when I watched it. I was down in our basement in the house I grew up in. I still remember we had people over because at that time we had like a fully functional bar down in our basement pre-fire when we lost a lot of that stuff. But we had people over. We always had people over for Super Bowl and for Wrestlemania. But I still remember that match. I remember Ultimate Warrior with the Intercontinental title, Hogan with the heavyweight, and Ultimate Warrior actually won that match to win both titles. And he won in such a weird way. And I remember watching it as a kid and thinking it was weird. And rewatching it now, I think it's weird. And what was so weird about that ending, Walt?
Was that the Papa Shango one?
No, it wasn't that weird. Now, Hogan, I guess to show that Hogan was still Hogan, he basically kicked out, like, right at 3.
Oh, okay.
Like, and I remember thinking, like, that's weird. And I'm sure it was done on purpose. It wasn't a mistake or anything. But, like, it almost had that in your head. Like, wait a second. Was he supposed to kick out? And, like, that didn't mean to happen kind of thing. It almost kind of put a little doubt in your mind. But, yeah, that stands out as probably the first match I remember actually seeing. And, again, I was almost 4. So.
Nice. So, and Pete, you kind of brought up one of your early matches in that tag team match. So,
but Mick Foley was mentioned multiple times. Terry Funk was mentioned multiple times.
That hardcore style, I think, is very easy to get people to watch because you're going to see some weird shit. So, all right. Well, with that being said, I mean, I got nothing else for this week. I'm ready for bed. I've already taken 3 naps today, so I'm ready for bed.
Work.
Yeah. Well, we have no topic planned for next week, so let us know if you have any ideas or thoughts you want to pass along to us to help.
Hopefully, we get it a lot earlier than Thursday this week. That would be nice.
Yeah, and if you don't give a topic, we'll just do another Peach Pit, so that way you all have to listen to that.
Can't wait.
Yeah, nobody has to listen to it because, to be honest with you, nobody listened to the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess either of you guys have anything else you want to add in before we sign off?
Yeah, Disney's net worth.
Are you going to tell us it, or are you just adding that?
It's $150 billion.
Yes. By no means was I arguing that Disney's net or WWE's net worth was more than
You put
Disney's.
them in the same light.
When you look at their share prices,
you put them in the same light, and that's.
We'll try to get Jim Cramer as a guest for next week.
All right,
and we'll talk about the finances.
All right,
my final word for the week. Well, words.
Rest in penis.
Rest in penis. Yes.
Okay. Nice. All right. So, yeah. Back to awkward sign off. Awkward hungover sign off. Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope if you got go out, watch some of these matches. Let us know what you think. But with that, we will catch you guys next week. Have a good one, guys. Later.
Walton didn't say anything about anyone's physique.